capital markets in the last 2 years. And we all know that people come to stock exchange platform as a place where they can trade shares of a company. But in a stock exchange, we also trade bonds, both sovereign and corporate bonds. So all financial advisors, if you have seen that, always have informed you that it is a good way to create investment portfolio where you need to have a good mix between equity and debt in your portfolio. And as we Indians, the first thing, debt means fixed deposit. So today in this session, we will be discussing and we will try to understand what all other options are there in the debt apart from fixed deposits, which you can invest and which can be a good addition to your portfolio. I'm hopeful that after end of this session, you will have a good knowledge of bonds and you will also benefit from it. We have today two experienced debt market professionals, Mr. Harith Oberoi and Mr. Sunny Mirchandani from India Bonds. They will try to give you a good perspective on bonds, why a bond is important in your portfolio. Over to Harith and Sunny.
Thank you so much, Tojo, for your introduction and a warm welcome. A very good afternoon, everybody, all the ladies and gentlemen joining in today on a weekday and talking out time from their busy calendar. Today, we'll be covering the topic, why bonds is an essential part of your portfolio. That is bonds versus other asset classes. Before we do that, just a quick introduction. India Bonds is an online platform which basically enables retail and individual investors to participate in the fixed income market. We are an online fintech platform which is focused on transparency and empowering investors by giving information in the hand of the individuals. We'll first start in terms of next. What is a bond? Initially, Harith will explain as to what are the basics of bonds, and then we will get into the comparables, why every asset class is important, and the importance of bond in your portfolio. Over to you, Harith.
Thank you, Sunny, and welcome to all the audience. Now, before moving up to any other asset class, the basic thing is let's understand what a bond is. So by definition, a bond is a loan given to the issuer or a borrower by a bondholder or an investor, whereby the terms of redemption and interest payments are predefined. So कहने का मतलब क्या है कि बॉन्ड एक लोन के जैसा प्रोडक्ट होता है जहां पे रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट और प्रिंसिपल रिडम्पशन डिफाइंड होता है. सो बॉन्ड इश्यूअर एंड बोरोअर बोरो करता है बिकॉज ही नीड्स फंड्स फॉर हिज बिजनेस एक्सपेंशन एंड ग्रोथ, एंड वो प्रॉमिस करता है कि आई विल पे सम अमाउंट एज अ रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट टू द इन्वेस्टर हु इज इन्वेस्टिंग मनी, एंड at a maturity or the completion of the tenure of the bond, I will return back the principal amount to the investor. ठीक है. बॉन्ड और डिबेंचर में ज्यादा फर्क नहीं होता, उसको टर्मिनोलॉजी का ही डिफरेंस है. अ बॉन्ड इशूड बाय अ डेट सिक्योरिटी इशूड बाय अ गवर्नमेंट is known as a bond, and a debt security issued by corporates are known as debentures. But when bonds are issued, हमको दो चार चीजें as a characteristics of bonds हमेशा मालूम होना चाहिए. The first and the foremost is an issuer, कि bond issue कौन कर रहा है या who is borrowing the money, whether it's a corporate or a government. The second is the bond is borrowed in a larger sum of amount. मतलब probably a corporate requires 100 crore of investments for their growth or expansion. Now 100 crores cannot come from an individual investor or one investor, institutional investor. Probably they might need multiple investors in their portfolio. So they will have a basic denomination or a lower denomination or a unit of a bond. Can be as low as 1,000 rupee bond, and it can be 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 or 10 lakh as a face value. This is known as a basic unit or a minimum denomination, and investors can subscribe to multiple units. यानी कि for example अगर face value 1,000 rupee bond है and I want to invest 10,000 rupees, so I will have 10 units of bonds in my demat account. Then since I'm giving a principal amount and I'm making an investment, I am expecting some kind of an interest income out of it. That interest income, also known as the coupon rate of a bond, and interest मिल रहा है तो उसमें interest frequency भी होगी. Now interest frequencies in bond is similar to an FD also, कि आपको monthly भी मिल सकता है, quarterly, semi-annual, annual or cumulative. There is something known as the credit worthiness of the instrument or the debt issuer. When you are borrowing money, what should be the rating of a bond, or what is the risk associated with the bond? A credit rating agency helps us or enables investor making an informed decision while investing into bonds via providing a credit rating to that instrument. We'll understand more in the following slides. And as very basic definition of a bond, I am making an investments. I want my returns also, a principal also back at a particular date. That return is known as a maturity date or a redemption date. When my return date is finalized, so my principal redemption is defined. Investor is what I am investing into a bond, or a bond holder of the instrument. It can be an individual or a corporate.
So Hare, to make this webinar a little more interesting and a little more interactive so that the audience also feel that they are a part of the webinar, we are going to take up polls. Question and answers will be answered towards the end of the presentation, but in the middle of the presentation, after certain slides, we'll be coming up with polls with very simple questions, wherein every participant who's there in this webinar, we would request you to please participate and give your answer. We are happy to readdress whatever are the questions after that. So we'll be coming up with the first poll. If you can please load the first poll for the audience. We'll be giving you 30 seconds for participating in the poll so that we don't put in too much of time. So we'll just wait. I think the first poll is going live. Request everybody to please participate in the same. Another 10 seconds. I think a lot of people are participating. That is what I can see. Okay, so we'll stop the poll. So the query that we raised is, who is an issuer in a bond or an NCD? Almost 90% plus people have participated and they've said that both. That's absolutely correct. Corporates and government both can issue NCDs and bonds, like Harit rightfully pointed out. This is basically a form of corporates or government to raise money other than banks. Yes, that was the query, and we're happy that a lot of people participated. I think we'll move on to the next slide, Harit.
Correct. Okay, thank you, Sunny. Now, when we have understood the basics of a bond, let's understand the mechanics of a bond. So basically, bond function kaise karta hai? So like a normal fixed deposit or a loan instrument, which is the most comparable instrument for this asset class, हम एक illustrative cash flow example ले रहे हैं. So bond as an issuer, suppose ABC is the name of the company or the issuer who wants to raise funds. उसने ऑफर किया कि I will be offering a coupon rate of 10% with a interest payment frequency as annual. मतलब every year they are gonna pay 10% as a rate of interest for the principal amount, whatever they will borrow from the investors. Tenure of the bond is 5 years. Again, very important. The terms and conditions of the bond are predetermined. So आपको day 1 पे मालूम है कि this is the interest rate or the coupon rate of a bond. Interest payment frequency is annual. The tenure or the maturity limit of a time frame of bond is 5 years. Minimum face value for this example is 10,000 rupees, and the allotment date is 31st January 2022. Means 5 years है तो मेरे को maturity date हो गया 31st January 27. 31st January 22 I have made a principal payment of 10,000 rupees. Every year on the record date, the registrar will calculate the total interest amount, and on the interest payment date, the payment will be done to the bond holder. The interest payment will be done to the bond holder or the investor of the bond. So in 31st January 23, you will get 1,000 rupees as an interest income for at the rate of 10% for 10,000 rupees invested. Similarly, in 24, 25, 26, I will get 1,000 rupees as an interest income. And on the maturity date, 31st January 27, I will get my 1,000 rupees as an interest component along with my principal repayment or redemption of my principal amount, 10,000 rupees. This is an illustrative cash flow for a bond investment. So on maturity, I get my full principal back, and on regular intervals, I was earning interest component out of it.
Got it.
Is it easy and clear?
Yes, I think you've kept it very, very simple and easy.
I'll move into next slide. Now, this is very important for investors to understand what risk appetite they take when it comes to investing into fixed income bond. We understand that almost all financial asset class comes with some amount of risk, and every investor should take an informed decision while investing into bonds also as a financial instrument. Now, every investor will have a different risk appetite. Somebody might be a very aggressive investor, uska risk appetite zyada hoga. Somebody will be a very conservative, said mera principal protected hona chahiye, mujhe risk nahi lena hai. I might be satisfied with lower interest rate or lower returns, but I don't want to take my principal risk or the total amount risk. So a credit rating agency acts as an independent evaluator whose job is to do the due diligence and gives a credit rating to a bond issuer or a borrower as to what are their financial strength and whether they have enough financial capability to service their liabilities or financial obligations. मतलब borrow तो कर रहा हूं, but whether I'll be able to make my interest payments or not timely, and at the time of redemption, can I pay my principal back?
And are these regulated?
These are regulated. These agencies are appointed by SEBI. So you cannot have a rating agency without getting
SEBI registration.
SEBI registration. So
Understood.
CRISIL, ICRA, CARE are a few renowned rating agencies in the country. And AAA is considered to be the highest degree of safety in terms of rating, yani ki the lowest credit risk or a default risk. And gradually you move down the ladder. So AAA highest degree, then AA you call it a high degree safety. Single A means adequate safety, and you go down the ladder.
Something like the Indian government will be a AAA.
when you look country-wise rating, Indian government is rated as BBB. So we are an investment grade, but not a AAA. However, every company within the country has their own specific ratings. Government PSUs or government are known as sovereign, so don't have the rating standard, but PSUs and large names have AAA ratings. You have L&T or a Reliance or a Tatas of the world, which are bigger, who has the financial capabilities and capability to service their obligations. They are AAA instruments as well.
Got it.
Okay. Sometimes these rating agencies add plus and minus signs also, just to give a relative understanding of the issuer entity within that group. So being a AA, you have a AA plus, which is one notch higher than a AA, and a AA minus, which is a one notch lower than a AA. So within that same rating bucket, you have a relative understanding between with plus and minus sign. This is how to evaluate a credit rating. Anything up to BBB is considered as investment grade instruments. Below BBB, it becomes a higher riskier instrument to park your funds. Then it becomes your principal at risk, or you're too aggressive to take that amount of risk in terms of investments.
Understood. Okay. I think with this being explained, let us take the next poll so that everybody, we can see if everybody is getting what we are trying to explain, and if we need to re-explain, we are happy to do that. Can we have the next poll, please? So we'll wait for 30 seconds for everybody to participate. Request all to please participate in the poll. Hope everybody is able to see, because yes, I think it's still live. So the question is, what is the highest credit rating? Whether it's AA, AAA, A, or none of the above. Hope everybody is able to see the poll on their screens. We are waiting for some participants to join in. There are already a lot of participants who have already voted. We're just waiting for the same. Okay, another 5 seconds and we stop the poll. Yes, Manish, I think we can stop the poll. I think a lot of people have participated. So approximately 95% of the people who participated have answered correctly. AAA is the highest credit rating. Like Harit said, domestically, the government of India companies are rated AAA, and the likes of Tata, Birla, or Mahindra, these are AAA rated corporates. However, credit rating is more like an opinion. These are regulated, SEBI registered, regulated rating agencies who give an opinion on various corporates depending on their capabilities to repay their debt obligations. We'll take over to the next slide. I think this gives a brief in terms of what bonds are. We are happy to address more queries, whoever would have the query in the Q&A round. First, we'll take up some asset classes. The most basic, which is almost like a alternate to fixed deposit, is bonds. Harit, we'll try to make it more interactive, wherein I would like to tell you that fixed deposits are actually the most traditional form of investments.
Correct.
They are probably one of the safest. At least that's the perception for everybody.
Yes.
It gives you a fixed return. It's so easy. I just have to go to a bank. I just have to give them a check, ask them to create a FD, or I can just go on net banking, and life's so simple. The day the money gets matured, automatically comes back to my account, and I get interest payments also on regular basis. And yes, so what do you think? Today, I think the FD market is almost 1.5 lakh crore plus.
150 lakh crores.
150 lakh crores. Sorry, not 1.5. So that's a very, very big market. So I'm sure there will be a logic why today people are investing in that, and why one should opt for bonds as an option in their portfolio.
So
Everyone has its own pros. So if you can just explain to us, we'll be more than happy to understand.
So I'll start with FD. Yes, it's one of the safest format of an asset class to invest in. But the main objective is, when you are investing into fixed deposit, is on a subconscious mind, you are investing into an instrument where my principal is protected and
Right.
I'm earning some interest out of it. That is
Absolutely.
the objective of investments into fixed income.
Right.
Okay, FD mein. Now these are traditional format of investments.
Absolutely.
Maybe probably 30, 40 years, 50 years since
Even more,
independence,
I think,
we've been
yes.
investing into fixed deposits. My grandfather used to do it. My father used to do it. I should also invest into fixed deposits.
True.
Considering current scenario, I'll explain detail. A fixed deposit returns are very low compared to what the inflation is. So
Correct.
your risk adjusted returns, inflation adjusted returns in current scenario of investments are actually negative.
True.
I'll explain with details in the next slide as to compare your fixed deposits with bonds. So both asset class, whether bonds or FDs, the objective is my principal protected and I'm earning interest income. Yes,
Sure.
bonds also does the same thing. FDs also does the same thing. A bond has an additional feature to it. There's a possibility to have a capital gains. Means I've
Okay.
invested into a bond today with a price of 100 rupees, and there is a possibility over a period of time the price of the bond will be appreciated to 100 rupees or 102 rupees, and I earn a capital gain out of it, which is not available when invest into a fixed deposit. Your returns are fixed and defined.
Right.
Bonds also, your returns are fixed and defined, but there is a possibility if you have a capital appreciation.
Because this is also listed on the exchange.
These are listed on the exchange and you have possibility of liquidity, high liquidity. Now, like FDs, it is perceived as a secured investment, but on legal terms, it's an unsecured instrument. A fixed deposit by definition is an unsecured instrument.
Right.
Bank fixed deposits are being guaranteed by an insurance scheme, which is deposit insurance guarantee scheme, where the maximum limit for the safety or the insured limit for an FD for an individual is 5 lakh rupees, which includes your principal as an interest along with an interest. So suppose if I have a bank FD of 10 lakh rupees and unfortunate circumstances a bank gets into trouble, my insurance limit to that FD is up to a limit of 5 lakh rupees and not 10 lakh rupees, which is my amount.
This 5 lakhs is only applicable for bank FDs or even corporate FDs?
Only bank FDs.
So all the corporate FDs that are there, they're completely unsecured.
They're unsecured in nature. technical definition. However, on the other hand, bonds both have secured and unsecured features. You have secured bonds which are backed by collaterals, and you have unsecured bonds as well. So both options are available, and depending upon your risk appetite, an investor can take a decision in terms of investments.
Understood.
Second most important feature when it comes to investments into fixed income is your liquidity. Now, unlike an FD, which is illiquid in nature, mean to say that you can redeem an FD while going to your bank or the corporate FD, wherever you're getting an issuer. But whenever you redeem prematurely, you have to pay a penalty on it. Matlab, my rate of interest will come down if I do a premature redemption. But on the other hand, a bond is a listed tradable security. There is no lock-in period. It's an open-ended structure. Whenever you want to liquidate it, you can liquidate the bond, and there is no penalty charges to it.
But Harit, I can invest 10,000 rupees in FD.
You can invest 10,000 rupees in bonds as well. Bonds comes in the public issue format where the face value of bond is as low as 1,000 rupees.
Okay.
You can have 10 units also. You can subscribe to it with 10,000 rupees.
But then the tenure, I can go for 3 years, I can go for 1 year, depending on the tenure that I have the money for. If I have something that I've planned and I need the money after 1 year or 2 years or 3 years, then in bonds, there will be a fixed tenure, right?
So as I said, bonds are open-ended. There is no lock-in structure. Whenever you can buy bonds today and sell tomorrow as well.
Okay. But are there like multiple options in terms of maturity also that we have?
Yes. Whenever there is a public issue of a bond, they give you multiple issuances of bonds, and you can decide what tenure you want to. Multiple series options with multiple interest payment frequencies are available. You can select if I want to have a monthly interest payment option or an annual interest payment option. Options are available in various series. One more advantage to liquidity as a factor is, suppose today I have invested 10 lakh rupees in a bank FD, and tomorrow I have some emergency requirement. If I need to withdraw that money, I have to take a premature withdrawal for the entire FD amount.
Correct.
Whereas a bond is tradable in units. I have invested into units of bonds of 10 lakh rupees with a face value of 1 lakh.
Right.
So if I need tomorrow 5 lakh rupees, I can sell only 5 units of bonds, get my job done, and the remaining bonds are still invested where I am earning interest out of it.
Okay.
Other factors, yes, interest payment frequencies, you have monthly, quarterly, annual, cumulatives, loan collaterals, both bonds as well as FDs are pledgeable. So you get loan against your instruments. Taxation makes an important aspect to it. And in FDs, TDS is applicable, means a 10% TDS is deducted for interest income more than a prescribed limit. Whereas in bonds, listed bonds, there is no TDS applicable. Okay. So there is no additional tax deducted at source when you are investing into listed bonds. However, interest income is taxed as per your individual tax rate or the nominal rate of taxation.
So you're trying to say that anybody who invests in bond will, in literal sense, will have more cash flow in terms of interest income that is coming. If somebody invests 10 lakh rupees, they get an interest income of say 1 lakh rupees or 10,000 rupees. Normally a 10% TDS is applicable in an FD. In a listed bond, there is no TDS applicable. So you get the full 10,000 as interest.
Correct.
And then later on during tax filing, you need to work out your tax slabs.
That's
the same as per FD.
Correct. So you have a benefit of an FD, but with additional features and advantages.
Understood.
And I was talking about your real return or real value return. In current scenarios, in today's scenario, if I go out and look for my fixed deposit investments in banks, my rate of interest will range between 5 to 5.5%.
Right.
Correct. Whereas what is the current inflation rate? The CPI inflation for the March 22 is 6.95.
True.
Technically, my investments real returns will be a negative return. मतलब हम inflation को ऐसे पढ़ें कि suppose I have invested 100 rupees today, technically I should earn at a 5% rate of interest 105 rupees at the end of my maturity of an FD. Correct, you will get it. But the inflation has jumped to 6.95 or 7% for understanding. यानी कि the real value is depreciated by 2 rupees. Your purchase power has depreciated.
Right.
Your investment, objective investment is your return should be higher than the real value of it. रिटर्न्स, ठीक है ना, आपका इन्फ्लेशन से तो बेटर रिटर्न्स आने चाहिए थे,
True.
यहाँ इन्फ्लेशन से पुअर रिटर्न्स आ रहे हैं. So you should look for an investments where your returns are beating inflation, so you get a positive carry in terms of your investments. So same amount of risk, same amount of understanding, similar features, similar structures as an FD, but better returns and better advantages. Tax efficiency, liquidity, you have bond as an asset class. So these are some broader definitions or broader differences you can understand and decide depending upon your investment requirements whether you want to look for FDs or bonds makes more sense as an investor for your putting your hard-earned money.
So you're trying to say that bonds are almost like FD, but with certain added features and some more security or some more beneficial aspects attached to it for retail and individual investors or for anybody who is investing in a bond.
For every category of investors.
So it's an alternate option to FD would be a very fair option. Fair point to
I
say,
would
but
not
with
say
better features.
alternate. It can be an over and above. It is a
Right.
better product, better asset class to invest into when it comes to investments. FDs have become a very lazy format of investment, lazy choice for an investment. यार मेरे को कुछ नहीं करना है, मैं जाके बैंक FD करके आ जाता हूँ. But
Right.
again, you pay the price for it.
Correct.
Your real
It's coming
returns
at a
are
cost. Your
lower.
real returns are going lower.
correct.
Understood. So now that you said that bonds versus you explained why bonds have some advantage over an FD, I think let's talk about the next best thing, which is probably everybody's love, is equity. Everybody loves equity. They love the high returns. You're allowed to make small investments. It's an automated process. You just go online, just download your app from a broker. सिर्फ आपने डाउनलोड किया टिक 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 एंड सीधा आपका पेमेंट हो गया एंड आपने इन्वेस्ट कर दिया एंड आपको तो पता ही है रिटर्न्स भी बहुत अच्छे रहते हैं इक्विटी, इसलिए आज की तारीख में सभी लोग इक्विटी में इन्वेस्ट करते हैं.
बिल्कुल सही. But equity investments comes with a huge amount of volatility risk, if not the capital risk.
Right.
Okay.
Of course.
We may argue that I am investing into a blue chip company, so I am not running a capital risk. But the volatility risk which you are running is too high for an investment. So let's compare equity versus bond. Both are different set of an asset class. The objectives of investment between equity and debt are too different. But let's have a fair evaluation. When we invest into an equity, we understand the objective of investment is growth cap.
Right.
Okay, I need higher growth or
Higher
returns in my investments. And when I'm investing into fixed income asset class, the objective is my principal is protected, and then I'm playing a higher return, anything better than a inflation rate return.
Right.
Okay, so the objectives are defined. Now, between equity and debt, every individual should do their financial planning or an asset allocation. What is the amount of principal they take at risk for equity, and what is the amount of money they want to safeguard for their other purposes? For an example, some goals. I might have a goal 2 years down the line for which I am saving some money, maybe a daughter's marriage, maybe a son ka higher education, and I am putting up some money. Supposedly, I parked that funds into equity as an asset class, and unforeseen circumstances. अभी हमने 2 साल पहले COVID देखा था. Something might erupt 2 years down the line, and the markets collapse. Actually, होगा क्या उस दिन पे? Either you have to compromise on your goal or you have to reduce your expectancy.
Right.
ठीक है? Or you have to change the time frame. ठीक है, 2 साल नहीं होगा, 4 साल बाद होगा.
Right.
So if you are defining the rate on the big goal on the basis of time horizon, a shorter time duration or a horizon will risk your returns in terms of expectation. Whereas in debt, you know that 2 साल बाद मेरी maturity आ जाएगी, मेरा principal redeem हो जाएगा, my entire money will be in my bank account, irrespective of what the market conditions are. कि कोविड है या नहीं है या कुछ और कैलेमिटी है कि नहीं है, my principal will be returned back to my bank account on a maturity date and I have earned my interest. So my goals are fully serviced. Okay. Now let's understand as a asset class in terms of point to point comparison. Returns, yes, you don't have any fixed returns when it comes to equity. You might have a 15% jump or a 20% return in a particular year, and maybe in the next year you might see a negative return of 5% or 8% or 50% depending upon market conditions.
Right.
It is at higher risk. Whereas in your bonds, those returns are predefined on the very first day. We call it the predictable format of an investment because हमको मालूम है the day when my principal is coming back, the total rate of interest which I am earning, my every detailed definition of investment is defined.
Right.
So predetermined predictable cash flow structure when it comes to investments into bonds. Okay. Now safety, obviously equity का मतलब you are participating into as a share participant with the issuer or the borrower of the money. ठीक है ना, आपने इक्विटी इन्वेस्टमेंट किया है, आप उनके इक्वल पार्टिसिपेंट है इन द प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस ऑफ द कंपनी. प्रॉफिट होगा आपको रिटर्न्स मिलेगा, लॉस होगा आपका भी लॉस होगा. इन बॉन्ड्स इट इज एन ऑब्लिगेशन ऑफ द बोरोवर कि उसको प्रिंसिपल वापस करना ही करना है. इट इज कंपल्सरी रिटर्न मैंडेटरी बाय द बोरोवर टू रिटर्न बैक द मनी टू द इन्वेस्टर. तो आपका प्रिंसिपल इज सेफ एंड सिक्योर, आपको पैसा वापस आना ही आना है, अनलाइक एन इक्विटी फंड.
Because most of them are backed by security as well.
Yes.
Even if something goes wrong.
वो आपके लिए एक और एडवांटेज आता है इन टर्म्स ऑफ लिक्विडेशन और बैंक्रप्सी. ठीक है, द फर्स्ट प्रेफरेंस इज गिवन टू द सिक्योर्ड बॉन्ड होल्डर्स एज एन इन्वेस्टर्स एंड द लास्ट प्रेफरेंस इज गिवन इट टू द इक्विटी इन्वेस्टर्स. अगर कुछ पैसा बचेगा तो आखिरी में इक्विटी को मिलेगा. बॉन्ड इन्वेस्टर को फर्स्ट प्रायोरिटी मिलता है as in terms of liquidation of asset liquidations.
Okay.
So risk as an investment risk आपका higher हो जाता है equity में, but वो risk to reward ratio का play आपको खेलना पड़ेगा. Bonds में आपका risk कम हो जाता है, you have reasonably low amount of risk, but if you look into a long term horizon, say 10-year cycle में equity also gives you 12 to 15% kind of return and bonds give you similar kind of 8 to 10% bucket. So risk to reward you have to as an investor judge which bracket or bucket suits you for an investment. Might be 20% allocation in equity, and if I'm a young guy, probably 20% or 30% allocation in equity and less in and more in bonds. मैं वो play करना पड़ेगा. What suits better for my investments?
Understood.
Liquidity, yes, is both available. Now bonds are listed in exchange, so it is as good as trading in equity. So आप bonds भी खरीद सकते हैं, बेच सकते हैं. And you have players.
There is no lock-in. So
there is no lock-in.
Understood. Understood. I think this gives a good perspective. Everybody needs to have equity in their portfolio, but at the same point in time, bonds are definitely something that one should have to give certainty of cash flows, reduce your risk. Everybody likes higher returns, but there are bonds across categories. So then that's an asset class that definitely one should have in their portfolio. Let's do one thing, Harit. We've covered now FDs, we've covered equity. We'll try and take a poll back on FD. Manish, if you can just post the third poll, we'll just request all the participants to participate in the poll. This will just help us see what we are trying to explain the best. So the poll is on and request all the participants to kindly participate. It's a very simple question. Are all FDs secured? Is something that Harit has covered, but we would just want to understand so that we can try and re-emphasize and explain if we've missed out on something. I hope everybody is able to see the poll on their screen and they're able to participate. If anybody is facing any issue, please feel free to just write it in the Q&A part and we'll look into it. I can already see a lot of participants already participating, so I don't think so anybody is not able to see. We'll just wait for another 5 seconds for everybody to participate. Okay, so we have the results. So are all FDs secured was the question, whether yes or no. So would you want to take it up? Almost 15% said yes, all FDs are secured, whereas 85% of the participants said that no, it is not secure.
So your majority audience are correct. For the limited audience who have said FDs are secured, just to give you one more round of clarification, FDs are unsecured asset class by nature, and their bank FDs are insured to give some sense of security, but secured as a definition is not the word. You can say that State Bank of India FD is safe, agreed, because nothing will happen to a bank, but technically that is an unsecured product. And if the banks have done the insurance for the underlying FDs, you get up to a cover of 5 lakh rupees for your investments.
Okay.
Okay?
That's the maximum.
That is the maximum. So if you have a 10 lakh rupee FD and the bank have done the insurance against it, so deposit insurance guarantee scheme, which that also covers up to an amount of 5 lakh rupees. If something goes wrong, unfortunately, in the conditions from the bank side, the maximum amount liable by the central bank will be up to 5 lakh rupees to the investor.
Understood. I hope that answers of the query for some of the people who are not able to answer it correctly, and we hope that we are able to answer your queries correctly. We'll take up the next poll before we go on to the next asset class, because that's one asset class that all of us just really love. As Indians, the next two asset classes are something that just we can't just live about without. Manish, if you could post the next poll, please.
The audience, the objective of putting up a little bit more emphasis on polls is to get us the understanding that whatever we are trying to communicate is reaching to you correctly in a right format. The reason being, we can change our pitch, we can put more emphasis on certain topics which helps you get the maximum benefit out of this session. You have spent a valuable time on this afternoon understanding of it and listening to this webinar. We try to maximize the returns for you. So please participate aggressively so that we can get the feel that are we communicating right? If not, then if what changes we need to make so that next time when we are giving you the feedback or we are conducting the webinar, we will be more equipped to get your answers correctly.
Correct. So the next poll question is, should you invest in real estate as an investment, not as an asset class, not for self-use? It's mainly to do with investments. Should you consider that? The question is very simple with yes or no as an answer. I think we'll wait for another 10 seconds and then we will move on to the results. So again, I'll repeat, should you invest in real estate as an asset, as an investment, asset class, not for self-use or self-consumption? I think we'll stop the poll. You want to take that?
Not sure.
So approximately 65% of the people have said yes, you should invest in real estate as an asset class, and around 35% of the people have said no. We'll
This is surprising. So Sunny, I'm gonna ask you to take care of the real estate, please. But I understand real estate and रोटी कपड़ा और मकान मेरी सबसे प्रायोरिटी है. मेरी मॉम ने भी बोला था शादी तभी करना जब तेरा खुद का छत होगा. So मुझे तो घर खरीदना रहता है. Now, how do you prove that a bond is a better alternative when it comes to investments? And does real estate as an investment makes, मेरे को घर तो चाहिए, मेरे लिए मेरा खुद का छत होना चाहिए, पर क्या मैं more और additional investments real estate में करूं? Does it make sense in the market conditions, in the current scenarios, or we have other options or alternatives?
So let me first take up that real estate is definitely a very, very important asset class for all of us. Majority of us, हम सब अपनी जिंदगी भर का almost पूरा investment लोन लेते हैं और घर खरीदने में डाल देते हैं. Till the time it is there for your safety, your security, for self-use during the difficult times that all of us went through during COVID times, our houses were really our strength. That is where all of us were safe, all of us were together, and it really saved all of us from this dreaded disease. However, like the question was that real estate as an investment class, हमें हमेशा ये याद रखना चाहिए कि जो हमारे पास पैसे हैं हम उसको किस तरीके से सेग्रीगेट करें. घर लेना बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है और होना ही चाहिए, बट एट द सेम पॉइंट इन टाइम हमें ये ध्यान में रखना है कि हम घर इन्वेस्टमेंट के लिए ले रहे हैं या रहने के लिए ले रहे हैं. टू गिव यू एन एग्जांपल, आज बॉम्बे में अगर आप घर लेंगे और कोई भी मेट्रो सिटी में घर लेंगे या छोटी सी कोई भी सिटी में घर लेंगे, कहीं पे भी आज 2.5 से 3% से ज्यादा का रेंटल रिटर्न नहीं है. एग्जाम्पल, अगर आज मैं 1 करोड़ रुपया कोई घर खरीदने में लगाता हूँ, एटलीस्ट इन बॉम्बे एक फ्लैट अगर लेते हैं तो उसका जो रेंटल रिटर्न है वो करीबन 2.5% के करीबन आता है, 2.5%. व्हाट डू आई मीन बाय 2.5%? इज दैट 1 करोड़ के ऊपर मुझे 2.5% का ही रिटर्न मिलता है। उसमें भी ज्यादा से ज्यादा 3% का रिटर्न मिलेगा। नॉन मेट्रो सिटीज में मैक्सिमम मैंने जो देखा है वो 3.5% तक का रिटर्न मिलता है।
Sunny, I'll stop you. What do you mean by residential yield returns?
श्योर। सो रेजिडेंशियल यील्ड का मतलब, अगर आज की तारीख में मैं इसमें 1 करोड़ रुपए का घर खरीदता हूँ तो मुझे कितना रेंटल मिलेगा इसके ऊपर, वो रेंटल का परसेंटेज कितना है। आज अगर मुझे 1 करोड़ रुपए के ऊपर 1 लाख रुपए का महीने का भाड़ा मिलता है तो दैट मीन्स मेरे को साल का 12 लाख रुपया मिलेगा। इसका मतलब 1 करोड़ के ऊपर मैंने 12 लाख रुपए कमाया, मतलब 12% कमाया। हाउएवर रेजिडेंशियल में ये नहीं होता है। रेजिडेंशियल में होता है कि आप 1 करोड़ के घर के ऊपर 2.5 से 3.5 लाख रुपया ही सालाना कमा पाएंगे। दैट मीन्स आपका जो रिटर्न है वो 2.5 से 3.5 तक है। ये चीज रेजिडेंशियल में है। अब आप आ जाते हैं कमर्शियल में।
नहीं, ये तो इट इज लोअर देन बैंक एफडीज आल्सो। तो
एब्सोल्युटली
अगर मैं बैंक में 1 करोड़ रुपए रख दूं तो मेरे को शायद 5.5% रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट है,
करेक्ट।
और मैंने इन्वेस्ट किया है तो मुझे सिर्फ 2.5 तो 3%।
अब बैंक एफडी और रियल एस्टेट में ये फर्क है कि यहाँ पे कैपिटल अप्रिसिएशन हुआ है। हिस्टोरिकली रेजिडेंशियल प्रॉपर्टीज, कमर्शियल प्रॉपर्टीज में लोगों ने इन्वेस्ट किया है, तब बेस बहुत लो था और वहां से कैपिटल अप्रिसिएशन हुआ है। जहाँ पे अगर किसी ने 50 लाख की प्रॉपर्टी ली है तो वो 5 साल में 10 साल में 1 करोड़ हो गया है, which is not the scenario anymore. It's been almost past 10 years where property prices have not really increased the way our inflation is. So real estate is not able to beat inflation. यही चीज आप कमर्शियल में आ जाइए। कमर्शियल में yields are returns are a little higher, which is still in the range of anywhere between 4 to 5% से लेके 7.5% तक। यहाँ पे आप रिस्क रन करते हैं कि कौन आपका टेनेंट है, क्या वो आपको बराबर भाड़ा दे पाएगा। और सबसे बड़ा प्रॉब्लम ये इनकम कमाने के बाद भी वो है कि आप इसके ऊपर मेंटेनेंस भर रहे हो, आपकी प्रॉपर्टी का मंथली टैक्स भर रहे हो, वाटर बिल्स भर रहे हो और म्यूनिसिपैलिटी टैक्स भर रहे हो, तो आपका एब्सोल्यूट रिटर्न्स और भी नीचे गिर जाता है। तो ये दिखाने के लिए ऐसा लगता है कि 2.5-3% हो रहा है या 6.5-7% हो रहा है, उसमें से वापस से करीबन 0.3 to 0.5% उड़ जाता है, तो आपका रिटर्न और नीचे आ जाता है। That is one difference that is there in real estate. Hence, I say that real estate is important. It is not an asset class where you should put majority of your capital, but the unfortunate reality is that real estate you need big capital. So a lot of us are actually borrowing money at much higher capital cost, and we are investing in an asset which is not appreciating to a great extent, but at the same point of time giving returns also which is lower than your inflation and bank FDs.
एंड लिक्विडिटी भी चैलेंज होती है। आई कैन नॉट,
Absolutely.
मुझे 1 करोड़ का फ्लैट लिया और मुझे सिर्फ 10 लाख रुपए लिक्विडिटी चाहिए, तो मैं एक रूम बेच के नहीं।
अनफॉर्चुनेटली आपके पास रूम बेचने का ऑप्शन नहीं है।
करेक्ट।
आप ज्यादा से ज्यादा कर सकते हो कि अपने लोकल ब्रोकर्स या प्रोफेशनल्स को पकड़ के वो बेच सकते हो, और ये बेचने के लिए भी टाइम लगेगा। दूसरा, रियल एस्टेट में जब आप इसको इन्वेस्टमेंट के हिसाब से ले रहे हो, द एंट्री कॉस्ट विच इज योर स्टैम्प ड्यूटी कॉस्ट, विच इज योर रजिस्ट्रेशन कॉस्ट, इज वेरी वेरी हाई compared to a bond which is much lower. यहाँ पे अगर आप देखेंगे तो 5 to 7% मतलब 1 करोड़ की प्रॉपर्टी पे 5 से 7 लाख रुपए आपका लग गया इन्वेस्टमेंट में, तो आपका रेंटल यील्ड वो और नीचे आ गया, बिकॉज आप 1 करोड़ नहीं 1 करोड़ 5 या 7 लाख पे कैलकुलेट करना चाहिए, जहाँ पे बहुत लोग कैलकुलेट करते हैं अग्रीमेंट वैल्यू पे। सो वही जगह पर अगर ये पैसा मेरे पास शायद आज 1 करोड़ रुपया नहीं हो, मेरे पास सिर्फ 10 लाख रुपया हो, अगर मैं उसको कुछ समय के लिए बॉन्ड में इन्वेस्ट करूं and that starts going up, that starts giving me regular cash flow, it's actually an asset which is not increasing liability on my head, and I know that I have certainty of cash flows. Of course every investment will have risk, property में भी risk है, bonds में भी risk है, कोई भी investment safe 100% नहीं होता है, but that is a study that you have to make, that is the informed decision that you have to make, and that is what we are there to help everybody out, right? Okay. So certainty of cash flow is very very important. Hence, as an investment, I recommend that bonds and NCDs is something that I would advise, that bonds and NCDs is something that you should look at if you are looking for a regular cash flow. क्योंकि इसमें आपका transaction cost भी low है, as low as 0.0001%. आपको डीमैट अकाउंट में आ जाता है आपके bonds, तो आपको अलग से कुछ मेंटेनेंस नहीं लगता है। इसमें अगेन लॉक इन नहीं होता है, प्रॉपर्टी में भी कोई लॉक इन नहीं है, बट रिलेटिव लिक्विडिटी इज लोअर बिकॉज द इन्वेस्टमेंट साइज इज हायर। ऐसा नहीं है कि प्रॉपर्टी नहीं बिकती, हर प्रॉपर्टी बिकती है, बट एट अ कॉस्ट। बॉन्ड भी बिकता है एट अ कॉस्ट, बट इसमें आपके पास ऑप्शन है कि आपने अगर 1 लाख रुपए इन्वेस्ट किया है, आपको सिर्फ 10,000 रुपए की जरूरत है और आपका फेस वैल्यू 1,000 रुपए वाला है, जैसे पब्लिक इशू का आपने बोला, तो यू हैव एन ऑप्शन दैट यू कैन एक्चुअली सेंड इन पार्ट्स। अगर आपके पास 50 लाख रुपए आपने इन्वेस्ट किया, 10 लाख रुपए आपको इन्वेस्ट कर आपको एग्जिट करना है और आपको कहीं और पैसे की जरूरत है, आप वो कर सकते हो, राइट?
एक और चीज आपने बोली, मैंने कहा इसमें ध्यान में आया, when you invest into real estate for earning rental yields, I have seen a lot of times people say कि मेरा फ्लैट या घर या दुकान रेंट पे गई ही नहीं है, हाफ ऑफ द टाइम 3 महीना 4 महीना साल में खाली रह जाती है।
करेक्ट,
ठीक है,
एब्सोल्युटली।
तो मेरे लिए वो भी तो एक कॉस्ट, एडिशनल कॉस्ट हो गया, क्योंकि मेरे
Absolutely.
को 4 महीने अगर रेंट नहीं आया
तो आपका एक्चुअल लॉस हो गया, बिकॉज आपको रेंटल इनकम नहीं आ रहा है।
और एज अ बॉन्ड ऐसा नहीं होता है, मैंने इन्वेस्ट किया और मंथली इंटरेस्ट पेमेंट
डे वन से आपको आए,
हर महीने वो रेगुलर इंटरेस्ट पेमेंट
एब्सोल्युटली, एटलीस्ट अक्रू होना चालू हो जाएगा, जब भी उनका पेमेंट फ्रीक्वेंसी आपको पेमेंट आएगा। सेकंड, वन बेनिफिट जो रियल एस्टेट में है कि रियल एस्टेट में आपको अपनी प्रॉपर्टी के अगेंस्ट लोन मिलता है। तो जहां तक मेरी अंडरस्टैंडिंग है, अगर आपने सही बॉन्ड में इन्वेस्ट किया है, जंक बॉन्ड्स में नहीं इन्वेस्ट किया है, तो बॉन्ड्स के अगेंस्ट भी आपको लोन मिलता है।
yes.
और शायद थोड़ा बेटर वैल्यूएशन पे मिल सकता है कंपेयर टू रियल एस्टेट, बिकॉज वहां पे लोग ज्यादा सिक्योरिटी मांगते हैं, बिकॉज उसका लिक्विडिटी कम है, राइट? बट डेफिनेटली real estate from an asset class for self use is something that I will highly recommend. I am not against it, but from an investment perspective, छोटा छोटा investment करना, then bond is something that you should definitely look at.
Thank you, Sunny. It gives us a lot of clarity about how we should invest or plan our investment when it comes to real estate, because from an Indian perspective, हमारे यहाँ एक tendency है कि घर खरीद लो, जमीन खरीद लो, and any additional amount we have to spend into real estate. But those are not the correct format of investments. You can have some portion of allocation as a real estate as an asset class,
Absolutely,
but not 100% allocation in any single asset class. So real estate to definitely nahi, because your expected yields are far lower.
absolutely.
Though the horizon is always longer, real estate में लोग 10 साल 15 साल या 20 साल तक इन्वेस्ट करके रखते हैं, and then they say कि absolute return बढ़ गया, but अगर आप CAGR valuation पे XIR returns निकालेंगे, so probably is not that great.
करेक्ट। जैसे यही चीज आपने इक्विटी की बोली थी, लॉन्ग टर्म इन्वेस्टर है, 5 से 10 साल में दे गेट अ रिटर्न ऑफ 12 to 15%। शायद रियल एस्टेट ने हिस्टोरिकली ये रिटर्न्स दिया है, शॉर्टर टर्म में भी कभी कभी ज्यादा दिया है, बट इन तो इक्विटी और रियल एस्टेट का रिटर्न्स इज समवेयर, you can actually got netted off,
but for a
historically
and for a longer period, longer tenure, 10 to 15
and you
years,
have to make bigger investments
and bigger ticket size investments.
Absolutely. So yes, I think that's pretty much it on the real estate. I think we'll take up the next asset class.
ये मेरा पर्सनल फेवरेट है, गोल्ड।
ये तो पूरे इंडिया का पर्सनल फेवरेट है।
So as gold, मतलब ये तो कुछ जनरेशन से नहीं, ये तो जनरेशनों से चला आ रहा है गोल्ड में इन्वेस्ट करना। ट्रेडिशनली पेरेंट्स, ग्रैंड पेरेंट्स और उनके भी पहले, मतलब राजा महाराजाओं के टाइम से हम गोल्ड में ही इन्वेस्ट करते आ रहे हैं, और दैट वाज द ओनली फॉर्मेट ऑफ एन एसेट क्लास व्हिच वाज गिवन टू अस फ्रॉम सो लॉन्ग दैट दिस इज एन एसेट क्लास। आप इसमें पार्क कर सकते हो फॉर सेफ्टी एंड एज अ कैपिटल एप्रिसिएशन। डज इट मेक सेंस इन द करंट मार्केट सिनेरियो कि मैं गोल्ड में इन्वेस्ट करूं? एक तो फॉर्मेट होता है गोल्ड एज अ कंजम्पशन, मैंने ज्वेलरी लिया। नाउ आई एम सीइंग मोस्ट ऑफ द न्यू जनरेशन पीपल आर नॉट सो फॉन्ड ऑफ वेयरिंग गोल्ड ज्वेलरीज आल्सो। सो डज इट मेक सेंस कि मैं गोल्ड में एलोकेशन करूं फॉर माय रिटर्न्स?
सो फ्रैंकली गोल्ड एज एन एसेट क्लास, एटलीस्ट मेरा रिकमेंडेशन रहेगा दैट एवरीबॉडी शुड हैव in their portfolio. What instrument to use is very important, because at least financial advisors बोलते हैं, I'm not an expert, you can definitely check with your financial advisors, 5 to 10% portfolio gold को definitely allocate करना चाहिए। When you're allocating this helps you in multiple factors: liquidity, helping fight inflation, its safety, and you can anytime liquidate it, right?
Correct.
So government of India and the markets also understand how important gold is, how much we all love gold. Hence, RBI has issued sovereign gold bonds on behalf of government of India. So this is actually a combination of gold and a bond,
okay,
wherein you have an option to enjoy everything that you like in a gold along with the flavor of bond. What does this mean? RBI every year comes up with a calendar wherein they issue gold bonds, sovereign gold bonds. These are this is backed by Government of India, and it is got the highest purity level in terms of gold.
Okay.
Backing it. So it is guaranteed by GOI. And it has got a flavor of bonds. That means it is digital gold.
तो बॉन्ड का फ्लेवर यानी कि इसमें मेच्योरिटी भी होगी और इंटरेस्ट पेमेंट भी होगा.
एब्सोल्युटली. जहां आप अगर फिजिकल गोल्ड लेते हो, आपने फिजिकल गोल्ड लिया, अगर आप ज्वेलरी पहनने के लिए ले रहे हैं तो अलग बात है, बट अगर आप इन्वेस्टमेंट ले रहे हैं, आपको वो फिजिकल गोल्ड रखना पड़ता है. कभी उसकी इम्प्योरिटी होती है, कभी क्वालिटी अच्छी नहीं आती है, उसको फिजिकली स्टोर करना पड़ता है. देयर इज अ कॉस्ट, लॉकर कॉस्ट, स्टफ लाइक दैट. हियर you have an option wherein you can invest in the same highest purity gold, the amount that you want to invest. 4-5 हजार रुपए से लेके, जिस 1 ग्राम से लेके आप 4 किलो तक इन्वेस्ट कर सकते हो. और इसमें आपको एवरी ईयर 2.5% का इंटरेस्ट भी मिलेगा गवर्नमेंट से. सो गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया 2.5% इंटरेस्ट पे करती है सेमी एनुअली. दैट मीन साल में 2 बार आपको इंटरेस्ट आएगा. ओवरऑल इंटरेस्ट जो रहेगा हर इन्वेस्टमेंट के ऊपर वो 2.5% का रहेगा. एग्जाम्पल, अगर आपके पास 4,000 रुपया भी है, 5,000 रुपया है और आज गोल्ड का प्राइस 50,000 रुपीज पर 10 ग्राम चल रहा है, आप एक सिंगल ग्राम भी इन्वेस्ट कर सकते हैं. मिनिमम इन्वेस्टमेंट इज 1 ग्राम एंड मैक्सिमम इन्वेस्टमेंट 4 kgs. फिजिकल में देयर इज नो सच लिमिट. हाउएवर, इफ यू इन्वेस्ट इन सॉवरेन गोल्ड बॉन्ड्स ऑनलाइन, फॉर एवरी ग्राम you get 50 rupees discount for online investments.
तो 5,000 रुपीज का 50 रुपीज डिस्काउंट हो गया तो मतलब 1% इन द मनी हो गया.
एब्सोल्युटली. मतलब
तो मेरे को पहले
49.50 में आपको मिलेगा 5,000 की चीज आपको मिलेगी 4,950 रुपए में. मतलब 50 रुपए का तो आपको डिस्काउंट डे 1 पे मिल गया. एंड ऐसे आप 10 ग्राम करोगे तो आपको 500 रुपए का डिस्काउंट मिलेगा. अगर आपने 1 किलो किया तो उस प्रोपोर्शनल में मिलेगा. एंड वो अमाउंट पे आपको 2.5% मिलेगा. तो टेक्निकली आपका रिटर्न 2.5% से भी ऊपर चला जाता है.
ओह.
एंड इसमें कोई भी लॉक इन नहीं है. ये अगेन एक्सचेंज पे लिस्टेड है. एग्जांपल जैसे NSE पे लिस्टेड होता है, you can go ahead and buy and sell bonds on these exchanges. There is no lock-in. आपके पास ऑप्शन है. ये इश्यूएंस होता है 8 साल के लिए. गवर्नमेंट ने समझो आज अगर इशू किया, आज से 8 साल के बाद ये रिडीम हो जाएगा और आपको आपके पैसे वापस मिल जाएंगे. इसका प्राइस भी जो डिटरमाइन होता है, वो प्राइस डिटरमाइन होता है ऑनगोइंग प्राइस एट दैट वेरी मोमेंट. 5 डेज का एवरेज लेके ये इश्यूएंस होता है. एंड सो आप जब गोल्ड खरीद रहे हैं तो ऐसा नहीं है सॉवरेन गोल्ड बॉन्ड खरीद रहे हैं तो रैंडम कोई प्राइस पर ये इश्यूएंस हो रहा है. जो तभी का ऑनगोइंग रेट रहेगा उसके 5 दिन का एवरेज लेके निकाला जाता है. तो दैट मीन्स आप मार्केट प्राइस पे ही खरीद रहे हैं. जिस दिन आप बेचना चाहेंगे, इसमें 2 ऑप्शन है. आप एक अपनी एक्सचेंज पे बेच सकते हैं आपके ब्रोकर को बोल के, या दूसरा ऑप्शन ये है कि 5 साल के बाद गवर्नमेंट आपको ऑप्शन देती है कि दे विल रिडीम इट बैक. दैट मीन्स दे विल बाय बैक these bonds. So that means there is no lock-in, there is no liquidity issues. Next, in terms of if अगर आप 8 साल के लिए होल्ड करते हो तो 2.5% के हिसाब से आप अगर देखेंगे तो आपको 20% का तो कैपिटल अप्रिसिएशन आ ही गया है ब्याज के फॉर्म में, इंटरेस्ट इनकम के फॉर्म में, नॉट कैपिटल अप्रिसिएशन, सॉरी. सो अगर वो टाइम पर गोल्ड का प्राइस समझो 50,000 से 60,000 हो गया तो 10,000 रुपए का आपको कैपिटल गेन है. करेक्ट. वो कैपिटल गेन इज टैक्स फ्री इन द हैंड्स ऑफ दीज इन्वेस्टर्स.
So if I am holding this gold bond till maturity of 8 years, so मेरा जो capital gain है या capital appreciation is completely tax exempted.
Completely tax exempted
in the hands of an investor.
Absolutely.
और अगर मैं यही चीज physical gold में लेता हूँ
तो 3 साल के बाद आपको LTCG लगता है.
तो long term capital gain तो लगना ही लगना है.
Absolutely.
Whenever I sell this gold.
Absolutely. And physical gold आपकी चोरी हो सकती है, उसका wear and tear हो सकता है, purity का problem हो सकता है, प्राइस फ्लक्चुएशंस दोनों के इसमें सेम है. अगर गोल्ड ऊपर गया नीचे गया तो सेम, बट एज लॉन्ग एज आपको इंटरेस्ट आ रहा है एंड ऑन मैच्योरिटी आपको आपका प्रिंसिपल आ जाएगा. सो देन दैट्स द रीजन व्हाई सॉवरेन गोल्ड बॉन्ड हैज बीन रियली सक्सेसफुल इन इंडिया एंड व्हाई गवर्नमेंट इज रियली प्रमोटिंग सॉवरेन गोल्ड बॉन्ड्स फॉर द सेम रीजन.
ये सॉवरेन गोल्ड बॉन्ड्स कब आते हैं?
ये हर साल आ रहे हैं. गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया निकाल रहे हैं. दे कम अप विद अ कैलेंडर. When is the next sovereign gold bond issuance? They will come up. RBI के website पे होता है ये, and then everybody can participate in it. You can go on a website like indiabonds.com and you can just invest. as low as 5,000 rupees or 1 gram का जो भी value रहेगा उस समय पे आप invest कर सकते हैं and you still continue to get that 50 rupees discount.
So, like other bonds which are available in a transparent mechanism, sovereign gold bonds are also available in a
Absolutely.
transparent mechanism, and you can buy it online. So,
Absolutely.
ease and transparency and convenience are available in bonds.
And अब आपका same डीमैट अकाउंट यूज होता है जिसमें आपने इक्विटी रखा हो या बॉन्ड रखा हो उसी डीमैट में आएगा तो आपको कोई भी एडिशनल एफर्ट नहीं डालना है इसके.
Okay. So I think it makes sense to invest into SGBs or sovereign gold bonds than physical gold. Physical
Absolutely.
gold.
I don't know how much it helped the audience. Let's do one thing. Let's ask Manish to take the next poll and see if what does everybody think. Manish, if you could just post the next poll, please. So the next poll, I would request everybody to participate. Is would you prefer investing in SGB or physical gold? Request everybody to please participate. We'll keep it open for 30 seconds. And post that, we'll take the Q&A. We already have a lot of questions that have come up. We will take them up. Considering that there is limited time, we'll try to take up as many queries as we can. Okay. Okay. Harit, we have the results.
Sunny, I guess you have explained well. Almost 90% people do understand that sovereign gold bond makes sense when investing into gold as an asset class. A 10 or 11%, yes, they might be their personal choice. Gold as a jewelry. मेरी वाइफ को मैं कितना भी बोल लूं गोल्ड बॉन्ड नहीं खरीदेगी probably she might like to have gold jewelry but at one point of time she also realized that gold jewelry थोड़े दिनों बाद वो डिजाइन चेंज हो जाता है so the cost of changing the design is far more expensive than actually getting a new one.
Absolutely right.
Fair enough.
And that's one of the reasons why government is also pushing sovereign gold bonds because they understand that it's a flavor of both, right? Bonds as well as gold. Eventually, we all love gold. So yes, I think we'll open up for the Q&A round. We'll take up a few queries. We've got a lot of queries. We'll try to address a lot of queries that were posted earlier. We've tried to address most of them. In case if we missed out, we are happy to take it up. We'll just take up some queries, right?
And audience, you have the contact numbers and email address for queries. If we are not able to answer all the queries in a limited time frame, please write back or connect with us. We will be more than happy to address and solve all the issues if you have any.
Okay. So the first query that we've got is from Anand. So this is one of the older queries that had already got posted from Chennai. His query was fortunately on sovereign gold bond. That they are available sometimes at a lower than their face value in demat. How have they been performing?
Lower than their face value. See, the price of the bond might be lower. I'll say the face value always remains the same. For gold bond, SGB one unit is 1 gram. That remains the face value. The price of the bond, since they are listed in the capital market segment, there might be price discovery on the platform. There is some buyers who wants to buy it, some sellers who wants to sell it. The price is a function of the market. Whereas when it comes to the primary issuance, the price is predefined by the government, by the regulator. And that time the price, say suppose hypothetically it's a 5,000 rupees per gram price when the issue is coming in the primary. You don't have to do a price discovery. Government has done it and given it to the issuers. In the secondary market, the price discovery is a function of the market's demand and supply. If there is more of supply and less of demand, probably you will see lower price. And if there is more of demand and less of supply, you might see higher pricing. So that is a function of the market and not with the face value. Ultimately, gold bond will perform as a fixed instrument. जहां आपको मेच्योरिटी में प्रिंसिपल आएगा और आपने जो प्रिंसिपल इन्वेस्ट किया उसके ऊपर आपको इंटरेस्ट मिलेगा एट अ रेट ऑफ 2.5%.
Understood. So we'll take the next query. This is from Saurabh Vyas from Jamnagar, who's asking what are the parameters that one should take into consideration while selecting a bond for purchasing. I think you covered in your.
I'll again reiterate. when you are investing into a bond or in any other asset class, हम दो तीन चीजें हमेशा पहले देखते हैं कि what is my investment objective, मैं कितना duration के लिए invest कर रहा हूँ, my investment requirement is 1 year, 3 year, 5 year horizon पे. The second component when it comes to fixed income investment is कि what is the amount of money I want to invest into, 5,000 rupees, 50,000 rupees, 5 lakh rupees, 10 lakh rupees. ठीक है. Third, he said, मेरे को interest payment frequency क्या चलती है? So probably I might be a senior citizen and rental is my only income, or say interest income is my only income. तो मैं चाहता हूँ कि हर महीने मेरे को ब्याज आए. So I might look for a bond which is a monthly interest payout frequency. And fourth most important criteria, कि what is the amount of risk I want to take it. If I'm a very risk averse investor, I would look for a AAA bonds जो highest degree of safety है. Obviously highest degree है. सेफ्टी की तो रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट थोड़ा सा लो ऑफर करेंगे एज कंपेयर टू अ डबल ए बॉन्ड, जहां पे यू स्टिल हैव अ हाई डिग्री ऑफ सेफ्टी बट आपको रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट थोड़ा सा ज्यादा मिल जाएगा एज कंपेयर टू ट्रिपल ए. ठीक है. सो दीज आर द फ्यू पैरामीटर्स व्हिच यू टेक इनटू कंसीडरेशन व्हेन इन्वेस्टिंग इनटू अ बॉन्ड. में इश्यूअर कौन है, आपको गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया देखना है, बड़ा ब्रांड नेम देखना है, corporate कौन सा है, you have PSU companies issuing bonds, you have banks issuing bonds. I might be comfortable in SBI bank bond, I might be comfortable in Bank of Baroda. Then you have मेरे को L&T के bond में invest करना है या Mahindra and Mahindra के bond में invest करना है. और so you identify on those parameters, and credit rating definitely an important parameter. ठीक है.
Okay, great. So next query is from Siddharth from Bhopal. He asks that normally we receive interest when we invest in a bond annually, and on redemption we just receive principal. Is that the case in bonds?
No. I have, that's the reason why I've given this cash flow. You get interest income depending upon what the interest frequency in the bond has been defined. It is a predefined condition. अगर वो interest frequency monthly है तो आपको monthly interest payment मिलता है. And on maturity, whatever the last interest payment due, you will receive this along with your redemption value. So अगर मेरा last interest payment in this cash flow example 1,000 rupees था 31st January 27 को, which is also the maturity date. So I will get my 1,000 rupee interest along with my principal of 10,000 rupees which I have invested. So दोनों चीजें साथ में मिल जाती हैं.
Understood. Got it. So next question is from Sridharan from Chennai. He asks, how do you find the record date while buying bonds in secondary market? Record date means कौन से दिन आपके account में ये bonds रहेंगे आपके डीमैट में. So that is the record date. So how do you find that out in the secondary market? Where can you find prospectuses while investing in secondary market?
Yes, very important. So fortunately on our platform indiabonds.com we have taken into consideration that this is one of the very bond you want to select. You can take it, read it, and then take a decision of investments. General thumb rule is any record date is always 15 days prior to the corporate action date. So if the interest payment date, for an example, says 31st January, okay, in our case, every year 31st January becomes the corporate action date. Yeah, actual credit hoga. Record date is generally 15 days in advance, which helps the registrar to do all the legal formalities of crediting the interest component to the investor's account. So 15 days prior to the corporate action date is considered as recorded, but time and again you can also look in for all these listed bonds. Does their so intimations to the stock exchanges for the upcoming record dates for interest payments and redemptions. There also you can find the disclosures or details. Otherwise, in an information memorandum, they are clearly mentioned when and what will be the date calculation for any payment of corporate action.
Got it. So next query is around credit rating. So credit rating, what is difference between bond rating when it is positive or negative outlook? What does that mean?
As I said earlier, it is a relative rating within a group. Say there are large group of baskets, so AAA, AA, single A. Okay. Now these are the buckets of rating agencies within which they will provide the some degree of safety. So AAA bucket is known as the highest degree of safety. A AA bucket says it's a high degree safety where the default risk is very, very low. And then A bucket, which says it is a low degree risk, but an adequate degree of safety. These are broader
So
buckets.
he is worried what is positive or negative.
Within that bucket,
Right.
within that bucket, there can be multiple parameters of evaluating. So when a rating agency does due diligence, they have their own parameters.
Right.
So that relative standing of a issuer or an instrument within that bucket can be defined as positive and negative.
Right.
Okay, if the outlook is a little bit negative, if they feel like within that bucket it is slightly lower, they will add a minus sign or a negative sign, or within the bucket it is almost on the verge or a top league within the AA, it will add a plus sign. So it's a AA positive.
Understood. So the next query is from Vinod. He asks, can an individual apply for a government guaranteed senior secured bond like UPPCL, which is UP Power Corporation?
UP Power Corporation. It's a state guaranteed bond.
It's a state guaranteed bond.
Correct.
So can an individual apply? How can he apply? And what is the minimum investment?
So as I said, these bonds are available. Individuals can invest into these bonds. They are available on the platforms. India Bonds is a platform where you can buy these bonds. Individuals can apply. This is a state guaranteed bond. The minimum ticket size is the face value of the bond. So even 1 unit bond you can buy.
Understood. How does a bond get redeemed? Is the question by Srinivas from Bangalore.
It's an automatic process. You don't have to do it. A bond is in a demat account on the record date and the corporate action date. 15 days before the corporate action date or the record date, the process starts. And on the corporate action date, automatically the register puts or the bond is redeemed, or the bond issuer gets the bond back in their account, and the payment for that bond or the redemption or the principal amount is paid back to the investor's bank account linked to that demat account.
Okay. Next question is from Ashit Koti. He's from Bombay. He asks, can bond help investing? Can we invest in bonds and will it help us beat inflation? Every year the purchasing power of rupee is decreasing. Can that be saved from investing in bonds?
Yes, I said this is one of the prime factors why we are discussing here, that you need to make sure that your investments give you real returns, which can beat the inflation. So bonds does help you, and you have bonds with yields ranging from 6.5% to say as high as 11.5%, depending upon the tenure and credit ratings. You can have various frequencies of interest payments and investment options available where you can invest and make sure that you take the maximum benefit of the data available on online platforms like India Bonds, and make sure you take an informed decision of investments.
Okay. I think we're running out of time. This will be the last query that we'll be taking up. Satyanarayan from Bangalore. He has a question. Ratings like AAA, AA. If we invest, can we invest in a secured or an unsecured bond? What he means to ask is that rating alone should be the factor, or there are other factors like secured, unsecured, or what other factors should be looked at?
So again, coming back to the same thing in terms of parameters of the bonds. Rating is one of the important parameter of investing into bond, because rating agencies does an independent evaluation of the issuer of the debt security to understand what the credit worthiness of that borrower is and whether they will be able to service the financial obligations. Matlab, say borrower can come up and say mujhe 1000 crore rupees chahiye, but does the borrower has the capacity to service that interest liability and the principal liability 1000 crore? So that rating agencies will does and defines and give them the proper rating. As an investor, we have to understand couple of things. AAA means highest degree of safety, यानी कि मैं आंख बंद करके पैसा लगा सकता हूँ. AA means ठीक है, there is a huge degree of safety I am not worried about. To an extent, now these are all say to understand for illustrative and understanding purpose, but you need to read the terms and conditions in detail when you investing, or take help of your financial advisor while taking an investment decision. We're just explaining the process of form in the format of investments. And then comes to anything which is, we say, below investment grade. So anything which is triple B and below, we call it the low or non-investment grade instruments. So anything below triple B, we will say probably a very high risk investor who wants to take a chance can look forward to. Personally, I will say, as an individual opinion, you have to look for anything triple B and above as an investment grade. Okay, rating is one of the important criteria. Second is, as I said, when you are investing into fixed income instrument, you look for interest payment. So आपकी frequency of interest payments क्या आती है, वो आपके लिए important criteria होता है. मेरे को monthly चाहिए, annual चाहिए, cumulative चाहिए. थर्ड आप देखते हो सिक्योर्ड एंड अनसिक्योर्ड का डेफिनेशन क्या होता है. सिक्योर्ड बॉन्ड यानी कि इट इज बैक्ड बाय सम कोलैटरल्स, and an unsecured is there is no collateral attached to it,
right,
which means unforeseen circumstances at time of a bankruptcy or when the issuer goes in for liquidation, a secured bond will have higher priority for the repayment,
right,
as compared to an unsecured bond. But again, it is still higher than any equity investor.
but
So within
is it
this
mandatory to repay unsecured or it is not mandatory?
So it is not a definition. If I don't have a money left,
That is true, but it's the obligation of
it's an obligation as a bond borrower. It is a liability. So
Understood.
as an obligation, that whether it is a secured and an unsecured, the
Right.
issuer has to make the payments for the to the bond investors.
Okay, understood. Got it. I think with this, we would like to come to an end to this session. It's been a very nice session, and thank you so much to everybody, all the audiences. It's been a very interactive session. We've got a lot of queries. Unfortunately, due to limitation of time and everybody is clocked out time on a weekday, we will limit our queries to this. We are happy to take up any queries that you have offline. This is our email ID. This is our number. You can go and you can shoot us a small email, a one-liner email, or a call also. We'll be more than happy to address. Or you can go onto our website and put in your query, which is www.indiabonds.com, and we are happy to address all the queries that you like. And before we close out, I would just like to thank NSE for inviting us and giving us this opportunity to explain ourselves to the audience and to impart knowledge. Objective of India Bonds is to empower investors and to help them make informed decisions. So any information, anything that you need, we are happy to address your queries. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.